Well, if you didn't hear today, ESPN fired Curt Schilling. That after he once again posted controversial things on social media. Now, he shared this post with the picture on it and the caption that read, "Let him into the restroom with your daughter or else you're narrow-minded, judgmental, and loving racist bigot who needs to die." Schilling added this gem, "A man is a man no matter what they call themselves. I don't care what they are, who they sleep with. Now you need laws telling us differently. Pathetic." Now, Schilling responding to all of the religious liberty laws that are regulating which bathrooms transgender people can use. This isn't the first time Schilling, as you may know, has gotten into hot water. ESPN once suspended him for a month after he tweeted out something comparing radicalized Muslims to Nazis. He also said that Hillary Clinton ought to be buried under a jail for, regarding the emails as well. So, certainly no stranger to hot water. However, let me dial back some of the language you used and give you a different one. And I'll start with you, Tom. Let's say he said, Harriet Tubman doesn't belong on the $20 bill. Now, I know that there's a morals clause in his ESPN contract. He's an employee of Disney, the parent company of ESPN. And basically, they have a lot of latitude in their agreements as to who they can or can't. We also all agree, so we don't have to spend time. He has a legal right to say what he wants. This is America. It's free speech. Specifically, what I'm trying to figure out is, when would he have cause to say that he was wrongly terminated? Who decides where that line is between offensive free speech and free speech that is maybe taking an unpopular position, but certainly one that a lot of people may not deem as offensive?
I think we should first recognize that the Constitution does not give rights to individuals vis-a-vis their private employers. So a private employer, absent a contract to the contrary, can fire anyone for any reason. So this is technically not a constitutional free speech issue. What it is whether or not, someone who is a member of a news or sports network can speak his or her mind on controversial issues. And I think we would probably want individuals to have a fairly broad sense that they can, they can say what they wish. On the other hand, this is the second offense by Mr. Schilling, okay? And as you saw from the photo, it was quite offensive. So I think it's well within. Obviously, I don't know what their contract says between him and ESPN. I don't know if there is a particular clause with regard to what they can or cannot say. But absent that, I'm not sure. It doesn't necessarily completely offend me. Now, the hypothetical you raised, I think, is a good one. I think I would trust that a person would not be fired by a private employer for making a statement like that. But it is kind of a difficult question.
I think for a lot of us, it was the messenger as much as the message. I mean, I had a huge problem with the message, but the messenger too. Let's say you're watching an Ole Miss football game. Ole Miss in Mississippi, obviously, they also have some of the same religious freedom laws. And let's say the announcer said, you know what, I thought it took a lot of courage for that player to come out. All of a sudden, in Mississippi, maybe that's not popular, and maybe the employers of that college football network would say, this guy might turn off viewers and he'll distract from the game and he gets fired. Do you imagine the uproar that would happen the next day? I'm not trying to find sympathy for Curt Schilling. I'm just trying to find, hey, what an employer does, an employer does. It's easy in this one, but when it's tougher, do the rules still apply?
I think it depends. I think each case is fact specific. To Tom's point before, the statements that Schilling was fired for really had nothing at all to do with his role as a sportscaster. They were not sport related. They went way off topic.
But they impact his ability to draw as wide an audience as possible.
This is true, but also, as Tom pointed out, this was not his first offense. ESPN didn't just fire him the first time he said something that was outrageous. They basically suspended him, and he had a warning. He then poked a stick in the eye of the employer by saying something that was even more outrageous.
I'd have whacked him too. I got no problem with it, but
So I think that, if this was his first offense, I think he would have gotten a slap on the wrist and he would have been told not to do
I
that.
think Bill's right, but to me, we're in gray area here, aren't we?
Absolutely. It's all very subjective. Question is, I mean, again, if you don't have an employment contract, then you're at the will of your employer. If you have a contract, you better understand that contract, because that contract may well have a morality clause, and that may cover what you do while you're working and while you're not. The other thing is that he's in media, so as a public figure, his statements outside of the workplace still impact his job and his employer. So to go back to what Bill said, you may have people who say, gee, I don't want to watch ESPN because of his comment.
ESPN has worked very hard to establish a brand, and they've established a brand. When one of its employees says things which injure the brand, then ESPN has got to be able to take some retaliatory action. In this case, they deemed the appropriate action was to cut cords with Schilling, and I think he has only himself to blame for it.
The answer to bad speech is more speech, not less speech. So if you don't like what Schilling said, give somebody else an equal platform to say the opposite. I think that if there was anything about the Schilling case that really crossed the line, it was the picture, not the statements. And that's my personal subjective view. It's not a constitutional issue, as we heard. The rights of the parties are governed by a contract, not by the Constitution. But if you're asking me, we only have a death penalty these days. Be it Shelley Silver or Curt Schilling. Someone does something wrong, bang, they're dead. I'm not a great believer in the death penalty.
Well, a little bit later in the program, we're going to be talking about a sentence that went the other way for Peter Liang, who not only will not see the inside of a jail, he will not even be looking at house arrest. We'll be talking about that more. But coming straight ahead, though, should families of 9/11 victims be allowed to sue Saudi Arabia? Well, Congress, they want to make that happen. Both presidential frontrunners, they're on board with it as well, but the White House isn't. How would it even work if the bill gets passed and doesn't get vetoed by President Obama?